So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. Today, we have an amazing guest with us today. Man, me and this guy go back probably a good 12 years, 13 years. He was one of my first clients as a graphic designer when I first started Unique Designz. And a lot of you guys that follow the show know that I started out in the nightlife industry, designing club flyers. And this club owner hired me shortly after I got started. And basically, we spent the next 5 solid years together. I'm doing a lot of design work for his club, and I really got to understand who this man was. I really got to understand how this man became successful. This guy started 18, 19 years old in the nightlife industry and created a 45-year tenure in the nightlife industry. So if there's anybody that you're going to learn something from today, it's going to be this guy. And I am just super excited to have him on the show and for him to share his experience with you. And there's one thing about this individual's company that really stood out to me when I was working with him consistently early on. When I walked into his office and he had employees there, there was a presence. There was a different culture. There was a different vibe when you walked into this man's office and he had his team around him. And I've talked about this in other episodes. There was something about this culture that was so gravitating. There was something about his club that made all the other clubs feel different. Like you didn't get the same vibe. You didn't get the same feel in other clubs. But when you went to his club, it was like you were walking into somebody's home, the way you were treated, the way his employees treated. And it wasn't like 1 or 2 good employees. It was like all of his employees, from the guy that worked in the bathroom to the bartenders to the security. Everybody had the same sort of feel about them. And I recently reconnected with him, and I said, you have to come on the show at some point and talk about company culture and how you built it and your backstory, because man, he started his club in 1982. I was 2 years old, right? And he ran the game, and started a media company out of it. And he became the voice of New York. All the commercials you heard on the radio was him. And so he was like an uncle to me. He was like a mentor to me, because there were times where I wanted to throw in a towel and give up, and I would go to him pissing and moaning, and he would talk sense into me. And I would always leave his office feeling rejuvenated. I would always leave his office feeling like, I got more in me. That's just a bump on the road. Let's keep it moving. So I cannot wait to introduce you to this gentleman. But before we get into today's episode, here is a quick little message. If you're a business owner who wants to significantly grow your audience online and needs help dialing in your message to attract the right clients, check out this free video training that will help you position yourself more effectively and improve your brand's online presence. Visit www.uniquedesignz, with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/brand strategy. Without further ado, I want to introduce my man, Eugene Introna. What is going on?
Henry, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's always a pleasure to catch up with OGs from back in the day. And, I got to tell you, man, I have so much respect for you, so much admiration for you. We've been through a lot together. And I could not wait to have you on the show to share with my audience, somebody that I respect, somebody that I look up to so much and has taught me so much. And I'll never forget the day you were at my wedding and you were sitting in my chair. I was like, you gotta love this guy, right? So without further ado, I want to get into your backstory so my audience can really learn from somebody with the wisdom and knowledge that you have. And I really want to get into how you built such a tremendous company culture at your establishment and kept it rolling for so many years. So take them back to the beginning and give us a short story long, if you will, about how you got into the nightclub business and then how you basically came to dominate it and everybody was coming to you for help and consultation and all of that.
Well, so I was 17 and I had just graduated from high school and I started working at a back then, which was one of the biggest nightclubs in New Jersey, probably one of the first. It was called the Soap Factory in Palisade Park. And if you look at my size, you'll understand that I'm a big guy and I was a security guy. And that's how I started. And it was a very unique time. It was the drinking age was 18. The rules were different.
What?
Yeah. The rules were different. And, you're talking about 1975. And, it was during the, of course, I didn't learn this until after I grew up understanding and studying radio and the census and stuff like that. This was the baby boom generation entering the age of 18, 19, 21, the drinking age. And back then, places opened up. A normal sized bar couldn't handle the audience because it was like a big wave. And so they converted places like soap factories and said, hey, this is the soap factory. They converted roller rinks and called it, 135 because it was that was the address of the roller rink or whatever. And it's pretty wild because while this was happening, the 6-7 owners and everybody else throughout the state of New Jersey and New York City and Long Island, and again, I'm not trying to roll on anyone, but back when at first they didn't even know why they were making they were printing money. They really didn't know why they were making money because it was really so simple. It was like low-hanging fruit, and so that's where I cut my teeth. And I went from security to getting involved, and I was really, really young. I was 19 years old, and I was booking the entertainment. I was placing the ads in the local paper, which was called the Aquarium. I was doing the radio ads. I was doing all the radio booking, and I'll never forget what happened. It was like 1977. The transition started where the soap factory started transitioning into rock. And June, the first rock night was a Wednesday, a night during the week. And we had a band called the E-Walker Band. And
not
it was
the
like
E-Walker, not the E-Walker, but the E-Walker.
So it was like culture shock because this room was disco. all the glam, all the glitz, and all of that. And all of a sudden, we saw people with long hair, motorcycles outside. It was nuts. And I'll never forget the very first night that we opened. We did to do 1,600 people was like nothing. It was insane. And it was crazy because the nightclub was not prepared. Like I said, we were still riding the cloud of just open the door, people come in and drink. There was not too much. The fundamentals were really, there were no fundamentals. It was just like, all right, yeah, hire a bartender, hey, yeah, you're a big guy, let's make you a security guy. Anyway, that very first night, the manager at the time, my buddy Jimmy, he was overwhelmed because we had all of these people. We had a different culture in the room. And at the time back then, the bands did 3 sets, and they were like 45-minute sets. In between the band set, when the band was off, the DJ booth had a lock on the door, and the manager, Jimmy, at the time, would go in and walk in and just play the same record over and over and over. And I'm like, and, between the band break, there was a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So I said, dude, we're going to lose this crowd. We have to play music. Well, long and short of it, he's like, listen, I'm too busy. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm too busy breaking up fights and carrying beer to the bar. So I'm like, look, we just can't do this. We have to entertain these people. They're bored out of their freaking minds, So the following week, and I got to put this on fast forward because this could be really long. I'm like, listen, I'm going to bring my records from home. I had like 8 albums, and I swear it was only 8 albums. I brought them in, and the next week it was even busier, and I played music in between the band set. And, like back then, I had to go and buy records. So all of a sudden, as everything started maturing, I started meeting people from radio. I started meeting people from record companies, A&R people that were searching talent, promotion people. And 6 months later, I had 10,000 albums.
Wow.
But I hid myself because you got to remember, I was in college. I was playing football, 6'3", 290 pounds, running people over. And here I am at a DJ booth playing records. Kind of looks funny, right? So long and behold, I limo tinted the DJ booth so nobody could see me.
Get out of here.
Yeah, because I was so I loved the music. I loved the whole thing of what was going on. I loved the advertising, and we started, slowly but surely becoming, within a year and a half, we completely transformed into a rock venue. And that's when the Twisted Sisters came along and stuff. And so, but the thing of the music was, I got involved with the music. I got involved with the promotion. I got involved with the booking. I fought with 7 owners. I wanted to do a national night. They weren't down with that. They came from that school wall, don't change the broom that sweeps the floor. If I heard that once, I heard that a million times. And I wanted to take a shot and do a national night like twice a month. Finally, when the place was over, I had an opportunity. I booked Aerosmith. It was 1978, the year after Aerosmith debuted Giant Stadium. They headlined Giant Stadium, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, and Journey.
Wow.
The year after that, Joe Perry, the guitar player, left the band, and they brought in a new guitar player, and I got one of the 5 club dates. And it was on a Monday night, and it was insane. Steven Tyler walked in looking for drugs on sound check, and I'm like, oh, God, look at this. So anyway, that put me in a position where I started doing voiceover stuff because I had to take charge of this place. There was no, like I said, there was no true management. It was just like, okay, you're 300 pounds. Okay, you're a security guy. You're a pretty girl. Okay, you're a bartender. You're a good-looking guy. You're a bartender. Hey, you want to work in the bathroom, or okay, you're a young kid. You want to, we didn't have bar backs back then. The security guys cleaned the place up and brought the beer out to the bars. It was, it was the late 70s. That's how shit was done.
Yeah.
And what happened with me coming from that, I created this normalization in 1982 when I opened up my own place, and I'm like, I'm not going to have my security guys that I have in a tuxedo, all right, walk out with beer. Well, we weren't selling beer, we were selling drinks. So I'm like, I'm going to hire these young kids to be the bar assistants. And I called them barbacks. And I somehow think I was responsible for that title.
Get out.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, but one of the big things that came out of, look, I've been asked by a lot of people about my experience, who mentored me and all of that stuff. And I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but look, sometimes, you have a mentor, you have people that you modeled yourself after. I can honestly say that my experience at this place didn't teach me what to do. It taught me what not to do. That's how upside down it was. But again, it was different because it was a different time. It was a lot easier to make money back then. Once everyone started catching on to the idea, you had multiple clubs open. The competition was stiff, and it got to the point where you had to know what the hell you were doing.
Yeah, which brings me to a really good point, because when we were talking earlier today offline, we were talking about how a lot of the nightclubs, they have a lifespan of 2 or 3 years, right, and then they go under, or they completely explode, or change in management, Your club in Lodi, New Jersey had a 30+ year run.
37.
37-year run with the same owner. That a lot of people can't say about themselves or their business. Okay? So I want to get into talking about how you built the culture, because I wasn't kidding when I said in the beginning of the show, when I walked into your office when your staff was around, or when I brought my girlfriend at the time, but when my wife came with me with all of my friends and family to your place, it was a completely different experience and feel. And you never really wanted to leave, because you felt like the people that were waiting on you, the people that were protecting you, all the way up to the owner and founder himself, when they interacted with you, it was a completely different feeling. So the first question I have is, what was your hiring like? How did you know that an employee wasn't going to be a good fit? And how did you know an employee was going to be a fantastic fit for your organization?
I never, I kind of laugh and chuckle, and it's kind of weird because, like, when you see, like, help wanted signs, right? Putting an ad in the paper. I never did that. Okay. When I opened up, I already had relationships with people that worked for me at the previous nightclub, okay, that fit the mold. And
so what was the mold?
Well, they already passed the test when they worked for me previously.
And the test was?
Well, paying attention to every damn thing that I had to say. All right. Thinking like I thought, not, just being a part of my fabric, and understanding that this is a serious situation. This isn't a playground. We're here for business. We're here for customer service. We're here to give people a good time. It's clean. It's not about drugs. It's not about, getting people to jump up on stage and having some drinking contest. This is, there's so much about the industry that I wasn't about. And I needed people to understand, and I needed to understand that they were going to be about what I was about, if that makes any sense.
It does. So what were you about, other than what you just mentioned?
Well, look, I treated this like a business. I was in it for the long haul, you know. And you got to remember, my first 18 years in Lodi, I had that nightclub at the shore called Temptations. That was another story. There's another backstory to that. So I networked both nightclubs.
Yeah. So you were running two spots at the
Oh
same
yeah,
time.
it was insane. So people, if someone like bartenders, for example, I gave no one a reason to be frivolous. I gave no one a reason to have to give away product. I'm okay with that. I know you're going to give away product. I just want to know. And I want you to do it smart. I want people to be rewarded.
Mm.
If someone's coming in and spending a lot of money, I want you to take care of them. I just want to know. And, I just had a different approach, to that, security wise, a lot of people take the security job. They use that term bouncer. I don't use that term. I despise that term.
Why is that?
It depicts violence. It associates you with other people's problems. When something does happen, some type of assault and battery case that could stem from a problem from somewhere else and it winds up in your business, right away, you're a bouncer. The connotation of a bouncer is you're there to beat people up.
And get them out. Yeah.
You're there at the end of the night to scream at everybody, get the hell out. It's time to go. Mm. Now, I don't know how many nights you had the opportunity to close the club with everyone, but my rule was nobody was allowed to tell anybody you had to leave. The lights going on, the music coming down. If that doesn't tell you the night's over, I don't want someone that just got done spending money there with their girlfriend or their friends being screamed at by some guy who has his shirt rolled up, showing his guns, and acting like, I'm going to kick the shit out of you. It could be very threatening. And something? I'd rather work with 7 guys that are smart, that care about the business, that understand that this isn't about jacking people up and protecting themselves with caution, protecting the staff with caution, and understanding that when people are walking into that space, they're there to have a good time. I often told people at my huddles in the beginning of the night, that person that had that problem, I'm sure they didn't wake up in the morning and go, you know what, I can't wait to go to Soundgarden or Temptations and start a fight with Pete. People are releasing tension. They're having fun. They're drinking a little bit, they're loose. Who bumped into someone? And then you got to worry about, okay, well, what if someone's having a problem with their family, or someone had has an illness, or someone's relative just passed away? There's the circumstances that we live with day in, day out. And on any given night, June, they walk into your room. Mm. And this has to be identified with.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get political, but right down to some of the stuff that we're witnessing today with, the Black Lives Matter stuff. And, if something happened like in the last 20 years where a police officer had some type of something that went on with, an abusive case, and that individual policeman was wrong and it caught fire, I would have to make that part of my huddle with my security guys and go, listen, there's a bad vibe out there now for security. There's a bad vibe out there for police officers around New Jersey or New York or the country.
Mm.
You could rest assured that that is walking into this room, that mindset.
Mm.
So, the fundamental behind that was part of the nightly, every night before I opened, I had that early night meeting for a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
I came once. I had to drop off flyers. I remember I was dropping off boxes of flyers, and you
Yeah.
guys were in one of those huddles.
Yeah.
And again, I couldn't catch what you guys were talking about, and I was hoping that we could talk about it today. But you sort of you sort of alluded to it now, where this was the conversation that you had with the team before everybody came, that basically gave them, the assurance, gave them the insights that you had, which I'm sure they didn't, about what expectations of the night could be, especially because you had some really big talent there. So for you guys, Rise was one of the places that had and was able to handle the capacity for large audience, one, but two,
Right.
Eugene had the biggest and best talent ever to hit there was a little mini stage in his place. Like, that's not too, that's a lot of clubs didn't have that back in the day. Right. So, but Eugene had this big stage, and, some of the biggest names back in the day, would perform there. So, you're getting close to 1,000 people in this one spot, and yeah, like you said, there's tons of things that could go wrong or could come unexpected. So prepping your team like that was huge. I mean,
well, you know what? I mean, let me just say this. When you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with the public, there's policies that you put in place, but there's truly no playbook.
Mm.
And part of the reason for the huddle is, number one, I was only open 3 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't expect 48 employees, bar staff, bar back, security, to have their total focus on my business. So part of the reason for the huddle was I call it the reset button. To reset the room, to reset their minds, and to sit and talk about what happened last Tuesday or last Friday or last Saturday or last night on a Saturday meeting. So, for example, if I was open on a Friday and something happened on Friday night, all right, I recap how that was handled, and I go over it with everyone so they see whether it was handled correctly or wrong. I shed light to it and hope that it sticks with everyone and say, okay, that's how that should be handled. Because you know what, June? There's no two situations the same.
Right.
And again, it's like, like it's coming up on Halloween now this week. And Halloween night, especially, I always had to prepare everyone to realize that when people are dressed in disguise, they act crazy.
So yeah, be on your toes. Be
exactly.
Extra prepared.
Right. They do things, they get nuts.
Yeah.
Because they're in their avatar.
Right.
Now, and also, like, one of the biggest things is because people are in their avatar, that's a night, and thank God it never happened to me, but that's a great night to cause a holdup or something inside of a nightclub.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't
Because,
even do that.
People are dressed and, and then, it's like, it's a very edgy night. There's a lot of people that are out that frequent every week, but there's also a lot of people that go out once a year.
And it's that day.
Yeah. And they're not used to drinking a lot.
Mm.
They get carried away. They're that particular audience for that night. They don't really understand what's been going on in the last year.
Mm.
Like one of the DJs could be playing a certain song that everyone starts doing this or jumping up and down. And everyone's like, what the hell's going on? Like, if you were there past couple of weeks, but no, you just came off for Halloween. So, we might have disturbed you,
Yeah.
It's like, what do they
Well,
call them? Holiday hearts, you know?
right. I got a question for you. It just popped into
Yeah.
my head. It felt like you had a very family oriented staff, right? Everybody was very family oriented. There were family values at your establishment, right? What were those family values? I think you touched upon some of them earlier, but like, what were some of the values that were must-haves if you were to work under your leadership and under your roof?
You know, to be able to complete the process and to expect everyone to perform like I would perform,
Mm,
the morals have to be there.
mm.
The fabric has to be there. You know, you could have a uniform and have everyone wearing the same shirt. That doesn't mean everyone's wired to everybody.
Mm.
You know, I, I would, and if any of my staff people are up listening right now, I used to end all my meetings by saying, look, in most cases in this industry, if someone has a meeting with you, they come up with that jargon, do as I say, not as I do. And I would shed light on that. I'd be like, guys, do as I do. That's my request. You know, I'm a family guy. I have a wonderful wife, Sandy. You met her several times.
She's at my wedding.
I have, yeah, that's right. You know, Alexa,
Mhm.
from my first marriage, a wonderful, wonderful young girl, 30 years old. Connor, um, 21. And I got
Can't
Vincy. She's, she's in, she's in middle school.
Oh
And,
my God.
I go home at night, you know, I'm not, um, I'm not that
Club owner.
stereotype that, yeah. And again, I'm not piling on anybody, but that's just it. And listen, anyone that came into the building that worked there that wasn't on my page didn't last very long. And I'm going to tell you, there were very far few of them because the way you got in there was you referred by someone that was already in there.
I see.
There was never an ad put in the paper. I never did that nonsense that you see in the last 12 years on the internet. Open call. You ever see that stuff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Open call. And that's such a bootleg, bogus stunt just to find some new blood that's promiscuous,
Mm.
that are going to bring more friends into the building. It's so amateur,
Mm.
makes me want to vomit.
Mm.
And it's like it's a move to pray and get young girls in the room. And look, you know what? When you walked into my space, whether it was Temptations or Chicago Soundgarden Rise, you know, and at one time I never even had many female bartenders
I
because I
remember
always,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because you know what, June, I always despised what they had to go through.
Mm.
It really, really bothered me that everyone was labeling girls because you're a bartender that you're this.
Mm.
You know, they would associate them as being loose and all of that. And I don't know, call it pride or call it protection.
Mm.
I don't need to put someone's personality and reputation in my building because they're a knockout or they're a smoke show
Mm.
to be abused so I can make money.
Mm.
To me, that's amateur.
Mm.
And you want to know something? If you look back at my staff and you see them all, they're all mothers. Who has twins? Who has two kids? You know them all.
Yeah.
And you know something? Yeah. Did I have girls that were pretty? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But were they what everyone thought they were? Absolutely not. And I take a lot of pride in that. And, again, how could I sit there and make them feel comfortable if I'm a half a nut? Again, it goes back to that do as I say, not as I do.
Mhm.
So where the family thing comes in to answer that question
Mhm.
is it wasn't just about how much money you could make me. It wasn't just about carrying out the fundamentals of what I was about. It was, hey, how are you? You okay? Everything okay? Everything all right? Everyone had that open invitation to come to me, to lean to me, and whatever I could help them out with, whatever it was, I did, you know. So I became this figure to a lot of people, and I got to tell you, when I closed in 2018, you know, I had the place sold. I don't want to get into that because I don't have a legal case, but,
Mhm.
you know, not being there, I was suffering from like a separation anxiety, meaning I missed being tugged on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like I never, my family was upset because they're like, "Holy shit, this is a major change for you," and I was upset for myself and for them. But everything was looking great because I had it sold in 7 weeks.
Wow.
But it was kind of strange because I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't have this person to talk to now." Even though they still stood in touch with me, it started like dwindling. And I'm like, "Oh my god." You know what I'm saying? Like when you're used to people coming to you.
It's like an empty nest.
Yeah, it's like, listen, my office, just like when you would come down and talk and, you were questioning stuff that you were doing. I'm like, what are you kidding me? You know, just like, what was it, a year ago when we were talking about some of your stuff and, you know, me becoming that marketing guy that I've been doing for the last 35 years as well. You know, I always manage to bring the best out or let people see what that best is in them.
Mhm.
It's just something that I think is important. It's important to me. And so, that's the aftershock
Yeah.
of the place closing. But I definitely suffered from a separation anxiety to that, if that makes any sense. And
How did you get through that? Because I think it's important for people to understand, especially business owners, that may have a staff member for many years and then they go on to do bigger and better things, or
well,
they right.
look, I mean, the one thing that I got to say, and if you talk to anyone in my camp and anyone part of my team, my turnover was really low. I didn't go through, my turnover. I had security guys till May 2018 that were working for me for freaking 15, 16 years. Um, you know, Bartenders were a little different because, you get older, you move on, you get married, you having kids and stuff like that. And sometimes you just got to like, some of my male bartenders, I had to actually say, listen, it's time, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but my turnover was, and right down from the DJ to the light man. I mean, I had a lot, and this guy's like my brother, Otto. You know, Otto, Otto was with me for 24 years. Guys like Ace, 23 years.
Okay,
You
so
know,
here's a question.
yeah.
Here's a question. What do you attribute to that loyalty?
I, I guess not being the run of the mill guy where you're just a number, and if you can't perform for me, get the hell out.
Mm.
At some point, you know, how do you expect? And again, this is about the principles and the fundamentals of business. How could anyone in any business expect to get anything out of people if they're just a number. I just, you know, I could tell you right now, like, you know, especially in the last 20 years, I could tell you what everyone's doing. All right, how they're faring, how many kids they have, you know, and listen, um, I get pretty deeply emotional, I would say, when I have people that hit me back up and like, hey, remember when you said this? Remember when you said that? Because you want to know something, June? I somehow, when I would have a huddle, which was every night, um, I applied the issues that go on inside the room and how you approach this to your own personal life.
Mm.
I brought our personal lives into it. Think of yourself. Like I always, and I think I told you this. You know, I always compared my business as a restaurant. You know, it's like when people sit down and order a meal, the goal is retention. The goal is the resale.
Mm.
So another one of my things I used to end my meetings with is at the club 12 miles away, 10 miles away, or over there, over here, wherever, they have access to buying the same Kettle One and Grey Goose that we do.
Mm.
What sets us apart? Personality, service, character, cleanliness, sightlines. You know, probably one of the most culture shocking things that took place in that room in the 37 years that I was there was in 2010, or was it 2009, when I developed the Latin Night.
That's right.
Now, you know, I did my research. You know, everyone was like, Rise is doing a Latin Night? Now, if you study the census like I do, yeah. And I am big on the census. Um, I had to reset everyone's mind, staff wise. I didn't go out and hire Latin security. I didn't go out and hire Latin bartenders. I must have hired maybe one or two. All right. Why? It's the same thing. I mean, I would refer to them as Latin Guidos.
Right.
But I had to prep everyone because, you know, there is that racial divide, and I needed to make sure that my security guys, and you're going to get a kick out of this, were ready with open arms to show this audience that this is your nightclub and this is your new spot on Friday night. And I worked on them and worked on that and made it such an open, beautiful, measured, successful night. It went on to be one of the biggest Latin nights in the state of New Jersey on Fridays. And let's face it, Friday in the last 12, 14 years is considered an off night, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I would have did it on Saturdays, it would have been even bigger. But everyone's like, Fridays? You're going to do this on Friday? Yeah. And you want to know something? It was pretty funny because, you know, the Latinos that were walking in the building, they were like, whoa, they're not patting us down? They actually questioned my security. They actually questioned my bartenders. How come you're not patting anybody down? I'm like, we don't pat anybody down on Saturday. I'm going to pat you down on Friday?
Mm.
That means I'm predetermining that you're trouble
Mm.
because you're Spanish. It's 2010. Kidding me? And it was so funny because I did have a couple of people going, how come you're not checking people? And I felt like they felt a little nervous.
Well, it was their insecurities, not yours.
Well, and their insecurities came from their other experiences.
That's right.
And my answer to them was, listen, it's just different here.
Mm.
Okay. I trust, we know when someone's not right for the room.
Mm.
And it was unbelievable. And you could ask Christoph, you could ask Big Mike, you could ask Dave Mendez back in the day. At the end of the night, half of my security people's detail was to be under the canopy.
Oh, right. Outside.
Yeah. And say goodnight to everyone.
That's right. I remember that.
Drive safe.
Yes. Yes.
Did you have a good time?
Yes.
Be careful. Thanks for coming. See you next week. Every damn night, just like Saturday. And it was the funniest thing because I used to sit off by the side and I used to watch these people coming out going, did that guy just say goodnight to me?
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 300.
Yeah. They're like, holy shit, man. That guy just said thank you for coming.
That's what made you so different. That's what made you so different.
It's like I needed to use my staff to speak to the audience that was entering the building and not come off like and embarrass anybody because, we do have to have a dress code. And a Latin night has a very fine line. It could turn to hip hop. And, a hip hop crowd could be a little bit different and a lot more challenging. And certainly that's not what I wanted to undertake by no means. But the culture of the stereotype Latin night, you went out. If you were a guy, you could wear those loose pants and wear your Timbs and your glasses on. And the reason why I had to kill that from the inception was it's that dress code that incites you to be that tough guy on the street.
I see.
Like I go back to the Soap Factory days. When we started doing rock and roll at the Soap Factory, okay, the guys that were the bikers, they used to come in with their colors on. They'd have their vest in the summer, and they'd have their leather jackets with their
patch on the back. Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, it's 80 degrees in the club. Girls all over the place, people screaming, dancing, Twisted Sisters on stage, White Tiger or whatever. And these guys are with their jackets on. And they were the ones that started the shit. And it looked bad because they were tough. So I had to quickly institute, no, you can't come in with your jackets on. What do you mean? You can't come in with that. Because that induces the wrong behavior. Well, it's the same thing with, the dress code that was acceptable in other places. So, but to not piss anybody off, I would have cards printed for my doorman. So if you came up to the front door and you were like kind of hip hop-ish and had your boots on and your glasses, instead of having you wait online for 30 minutes to get into the club, my security guy went out on the line and he pulled you on the side, didn't say a word to you. He didn't have to because everything was written on the card. And the card said, we have a dress policy. If you live close enough, bring this card back and we'll let you in for free.
But go change.
If that doesn't work, bring this card back next Friday and we'll let you in for free. So anyone that had a problem with that, I don't want you in the room.
That's true. That's very true.
So you know what? I opened, and these little tweaks that we did turned that night into a monster.
Oh yeah. Well, you went what? How many consecutive years?
The Latin night was until I closed Rise. It's 9 years.
Because I did it for at least 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
At least I was designing for that night. So
yeah,
man. So you're talking probably another 8-9 years. You did that. You did that night. Wow.
Yeah, it was 2000. It was 2010 to 18.
Wow. I got a couple more questions for you, but before we get into those questions, I got a quick little message for everybody. Hold on one second. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesignz with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. All right, so we got a couple more questions before we wrap up. So not only did you run this awesome nightclub, but you did thousands of radio commercial spots for other clubs, other restaurants, bigger venues.
Hey, June, if you're talking to me, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? No. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Little technical difficulty here. Huge, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you, sir.
Oh, man. What happened? Damn.
Is it anything on my end?
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Testing.
Oh.
Testing.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, good.
Testing. Is this mic on?
Sorry about that, guys. Oh man, sorry about that, guys.
Sorry.
Okay, so what I was saying when we came back from the quick little promo there, besides running a super successful nightclub for 37 years, you were the voice in New York. I mean, you did all of the radio spots for all of the nightclubs in New York City, all of big restaurants, and all. You were the voice of New York. On all those commercials every weekend. I was like, "There's my unk." There's Eugene. I heard you all night long, and so you had a huge pulse on the scene. Right? You had a huge pulse on people. You had a huge pulse on pop culture. How did that help you as a business owner, right? Because it's easy to understand how it could help you as a club owner, but as a business owner, how did doing all of that help you be a more savvy business owner?
I always had a passion for the radio. I was doing voiceovers in the late 70s. I'm into writing. I love the music, and I love all the music. I'm a classic rock fan. I'm a house music fan. One of the reasons for the success of One South Main Street was having a grip on what was next with the trend of music. Because look, some people get very comfortable in those slippers, and we get older, and sometimes people are not down with change,
lose touch. Yeah.
You kind of get disconnected, and that disconnection is what puts people out of business too. Because it's like, oh, this music sucks, so let me just keep on doing freestyle. Well, let me just keep on having Franz Jolie perform, or the Village. I always moved, okay, and I moved a lot quicker. The only thing that I didn't move to, which could be another story for another time, was I didn't embrace in the last 10 years the whole big DJ thing, because I saw flaws in it. It wasn't, I wasn't on that page. I didn't want to be on that page, but that's another story in itself. But going back to your question with the radio, you know, and the events that went on at Temptations and at Chicago back in the day, I used radio. That was my message board. You know, that was my information source. And still till today, I'm friendly with every club owner from Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, all over Jersey. And when I debuted the New York Minute on New York radio, I was actually asked several times to do something for everyone. And I turned it down because I kind of just did it for myself. And I really just did it as a hobby. And you know what happens with hobbies? All right. They propel you to that next level. And so while I was doing the radio for everyone, you know, they had a buddy to talk to when they had a problem. They had someone to throw something up against, you know, when it came to insurance and sales tax and you know, dealing with the music license things. Like everyone that I dealt with knew they had me to call me at any time and go, hey, Huge, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think of that? And I was there for them. And, you know, and even if they didn't continue on the radio, I just had relationships with everyone, which was one of the beautiful things. But, you know, I kind of look at, you know, One South Main Street was like a model. Like, here's how I do it. So come on in, you know, come into my world and I'll put you on this thing. I mean, listen, you know, the stuff on the radio was very hip. It was the sound. You know, I gave everybody that inflection, you know, that commanded your attention.
And you have a very unique voice.
Which was, you know, and again, even like I said to you, when I told you how I felt about your voice, you know how you never heard it? People that have these voices and that are unique to it, that are not trying to be like somebody else, you don't really hear it.
Yeah.
Just like how I said to you, I'm like, June, you need to do this. You articulate well, your inflection empowers and makes anything that comes out of your mind, you know, very compelling. You know, and you know, because your passion's behind it. So basically, what I did was I gave everybody in the industry the same passion I gave my own business. You know, so but you know, it's tough to hear it. It's tough to look even till today. You know, I mean, things have been slow. The industry's crippled with COVID-19. You know, last year at this time, I had, you know, 17 audio video compositions up and running. You know, you're doing voiceovers every other day. You're exercising your voice and your inflection, your reads and stuff like that. And I mean, I basically gone since the end of February, I've been dormant. You know, I'm going outside the box doing different stuff for, you know, COVID testing centers and real estate and, you know, retail in a different sense, because nightlife right now is ruptured. You know, Atlantic City even though it's open, the event spaces aren't doing nothing. Barclays Center, Prudential, Radio City, Madison Square Garden, all of those big concerts that I would do the marketing for in the digital platform or on radio. That stuff is dormant now. And look, a builder, a good builder, I've seen some good builders that use their own home as a showroom and purposely made different types of ceilings and stuff to show them, let me take you into my house and show you this and show you this and show you that. And look, I don't know if I ever had this discussion with you. And again, I'm not pounding my chest on this, but, I had no problem sharing my stuff with a competitor. I often told people on the Jersey side, we need to stick together because Jersey was competing with Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are the redheaded stepchild. We ain't cool because we're not in Manhattan.
That's true.
Right? And I've said this a couple of times on some lives that I've done, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's just the truth. It's like when I closed Rise, I was interviewed by Channel 12. And this girl knew that I was involved with the radio. She knew that the place was there 37 years. She was a total fan. And she's like, I want to interview you. I want to talk to you about everything. I want to talk to you about radio. And I said to her, I'm like, I go, I don't want you to get twisted, and I don't want to piss anybody off on your team. I go, but here's the problem. A club like Studio 54 that was open 3 years gets a segment on Behind the Music on VH1. Behind the Music is for an artist.
Yeah.
Studio 54 was so special that they got this segment on Behind the Music on VH1.
Yeah.
They were in business for 3 years.
It's crazy.
So I said to this woman, I'm like, this place, forget about me. This place is here 37 years. I go, please don't get offended. And I'm being covered by News 12.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
I'm like, no offense, but I think this is bigger news than News 12. But something? That's New Jersey. We are the redheaded stepchild.
Yep.
Everything was better in New York. So much so that I used to cringe when I would take copy from some of my clients, and I would find a way to just get them to go, don't say that, because I couldn't even read it without vomiting and possibly having to swallow. When someone would say, club, blah, 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 blah. New York nightclub in Woodbridge, New Jersey. New York atmosphere. New York this.
I see.
It's like, be what you are. You're not, stop trying to be what you're not, and understand why they get all that attention. And again, you look at Studio. What made that famous? Was it the club, or was it the rock stars that were downstairs blowing coke in the freaking basement and doing all the drugs and stuff like that? That's what made it interesting. I mean, they didn't. Did you look? I don't know if you saw the documentary on it. They didn't even have a liquor license.
I didn't know that.
They had a 6-month catering license that they renewed
multiple times.
Yeah. Until they finally said that's it.
Yeah.
But it's like, and again, it's like, Hey, look, I'm not the only place that lasted long. There was places out on Long Island like Zachary's, uh, uh, Legacy in Brooklyn was there for a lot of years, and Joey's in Clifton was around for a long time, and
That's right. Yeah.
you
Forgot
know,
about
um, places like Club Abyss in Sayreville. You know, um, there's a place in Elizabeth called Barcode. This place was Coco Bongo. That place has been around 20 years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Yeah,
about Coco Bongo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know. So it's not that there's not places that last. You know, and a bunch of them renamed themselves because maybe the interest fell by the wayside or whatever. You know, but yeah, I mean, going back to the question, I hope I didn't drift off here on you. Um, it was more about, okay, here's what I'm doing. All right, you want to come in and I'll do this for you.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, and it was really a compliment, and I was I was flattered. I'd have a club like Mirage in Westbury that was mammoth. I mean, this place had dual bathrooms and an outside veranda. It was on a pad site. It was beautiful. God rest his soul, John Smythe and Rich Pedrosian. Rich Pedrosian was an ex-club owner. Then he was there. He was their marketing director and a director of operations. And what was really cool, and a couple other people, like before they would do the promo, before they came to someone like you to design the flyer, they would say, "Hey, Huge, I got this event coming up in November, and it would be September." And I'm like, "Okay, could you write the commercial up for me?" And I'll be like, "All right, you want me to produce it now?" And they're like, "No, I want you to write it because I want to copy what you're going to write,
Put on the flyer.
and put it on the flyer." And
That's
I'm like,
smart.
"Yeah." So it was actually cool because and the one thing, and I think I told you this, I took a lot of I took a lot of stock in knowing that the New York Minute had a sound, and I had to create a different image for competing nightclubs.
I know that's tough. Real quick, before we get, there's people that listen to this show all over the world, so they might not know what the New York Minute is. So, real quick, what was the New York Minute?
It was a 60-second co-op,
Which is
it's a 60-second spot that was broken up into 3 venues.
right.
For the most part, I'm sorry, I tried to regionally put things that weren't competing with each other.
Right. So you're getting 3 commercials from 3 different nightclubs in 60 seconds.
In 60 seconds. So
That's
each venue got roughly close to 19 seconds of time.
Right, right.
And what I did was I created and used a different music bed.
That's right.
That gave everybody a different sound.
Yeah, dude. When you went from one segment to the next, it was like you felt like it was completely different from the last one you listened to. Yeah, you did a really good job with that.
And I called it the signature panel. And so if Club Abyss was on, you heard "Why Don't You Dance With Me" by Future Breeze. If Soundgarden was on, you heard Hypertrophy, Just Come Back to Me. If that club was on, there was a different music bed. And it was so intense, June, that the record labels were like, holy shit, this is great. because over on the radio side, back in the KTU days, guys like Jeff Z, the PD, and Frankie Blue, they would be listening to the ads, and they're like, "Holy shit, what the hell's that record behind there?" Because it was an instrumental, it wasn't a vocal, and there were there were a ton of pieces of music that I used that was added to the radio because you heard this spot 18 times a week because it ran Wednesday to Saturday, and it, the frequency was pretty strong.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what it is? I was always kind of like, I always pride myself in not repeating a slogan, and you know this.
Mm-hmm.
No one place ever used the same slogan, and I would write everybody's slogans.
Mm.
And I promised everyone that, like in the past, back in the day, like everybody was the hot one. Me and you chuckle about it, but I call it the pizza box promos.
Yeah.
You've tried the rest, now try the best.
Right.
Love at first bite, like come on.
Yeah, your commercials were definitely not cheese ball. Like
yeah, I delivered that, and it was challenging. But you want to know something? It was tight. It was exciting. If a venue had an artist booked, I was able to do a snippet of the vocal up because, no matter what you do in nightlife world, you could book Amber back when Amber was servicing and was hot, and you knew Color of Love, you knew the song before you knew the artist.
Right.
And you had to put that together. You had to connect those dots.
Yeah.
A superstar like Deborah Cox. Okay. Today, everyone knows Deborah. When Deborah Cox first came out, it's like, this is Deborah Cox, or this is Rayner, or, this is Taylor Dane,
Yeah.
I mean, I can go on and on and on. It doesn't stop. So even today, it's like, if you want to book a show and do something in a venue, people associate the song more than the artist.
Right. Yeah. Music.
Which is an unfortunate problem and dilemma for dance music, because sometimes dance music just doesn't have a face.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But they have the sound, and it's it's the tune in your head.
Yeah.
So, I was able to offer a lot in that 18, 19 second swap, and you had a strong identity, and some venues bought multiple packages, which increased their frequency.
I see.
And listen, at one time for a good while there, I'm talking about 9, 10, maybe 12, 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had 180 commercials running a week.
I know. It was insane.
Yeah.
So. It was insane. It was insane. I want to reel it back in, and I didn't realize, it's so easy to go an hour and 15 minutes with you and not even know it.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
And listen, I totally appreciate your time, and I totally appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing your stories and just sharing your insights. If you can give one piece of advice to a business owner, entrepreneur that's running a team, and they're struggling to find the right team, right? What do you tell them?
You know what, June? I would have to say it's like any other business, man. It's like you can't expect success without consistency. And consistency is not having big turnover. And look, you sacrifice a lot by having consistency. And if you're not the right person to sit there and care about your staff, because after a while they become your family.
Right.
They become your little brother. They become your little sister. And some people don't want to deal with that. And I don't care what business you're in. And more importantly, in this category, you're dealing with people on people. It's not like, all right, here's the policy. All right. if you don't do this by this date, you're getting cut off, or whatever. It's not black and white. It's paying attention to your audience, know what's coming, know what's going to change, and hitting that reset button. And if you can't look, you can't expect consistency if you're switching out your staff every couple of weeks because you're sitting there looking for the next gullible, young, promiscuous group of people that are going to stimulate more business.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, it definitely makes sense. It makes sense for the nightlife industry in that space. And it also makes sense for, my space where there's people that are creating businesses online now and they're building their businesses from home now because of COVID, and they're trying to build out their virtual team. I had this situation not too long ago where there was a client of mine who had a staff member that just wasn't pulling the weight. And they were on the verge of firing them. And they came to me and they said, should I pull the trigger and just get rid of this person or should I hang in there? And I said, well, had you had a sit down with them and ask them what's going on? And they said, no. I said, well, that's the first thing that you should do. Is sit down and say, hey, is everything all right over there on your end? They could be going through tons of, like you mentioned before, they could be going through tons of stuff behind the scenes and in their personal life that they don't feel comfortable sharing with you, or they don't feel comfortable sharing with anybody. That's weighing them down, and it's keeping them off focus. But for you to even ask that question goes a long way. I mean, if I wasn't pulling my weight and my boss came to me and said, Henry, I'm just wondering, is everything okay with you? I might have a breakdown right there and pour my heart out to that person and say, no, everything sucks right now. And here's why.
And so here's the problem in the nightlife category. What depicts pulling your weight?
Right. And I think
because look, and again, I'm not rolling on anyone, but I guess I am. And I hate using the term amateur, but if you got to depend on putting a young girl behind the bar, barely dressed, and if that's your business model,
right, you ain't gonna last. Right.
It just, I mean, it's, these places, you see some of these places that they look like strip clubs.
Yeah, it's the same thing it's the same thing in my industry. Instead of the hot girl, it's you're flashing your hot car, you're flashing your house, you're flashing you getting off a plane, private plane, shit like that, right? It's the same thing. That's your marketing model. That's your business model. You're leading with that.
It's the worst. Look,
it's ridiculous.
It really, really is. And look, you want to know something? I'm more of a marketing guy than I am a nightclub owner.
Yeah, you are.
And I always was from the late 70s. And you know something? That, what do you want to call it, a mantra?
Mm-hmm.
Never struck me.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do this in order to get this. No, that's trouble.
Right.
That is trouble. That doesn't last. I would tell people, it's like, Jesus Christ, it's like, so I got this young girl that's promiscuous. She's young. She hasn't even grown a brain yet, but she's happy to be in a place because she's around older people and she could drink and, she could be Instagram live.
Yeah.
All right.
That's major trouble if you ask me.
It's major trouble. That's just like I said to you. You know, you got to watch The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
You know, probably one of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my life, but it's something me and you talked about 15 years ago.
Right.
Okay. And it's like, you want to know something? It's like I said to you today, it's the biscuit. You know, I trained my dog Grover with liverwurst.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, you know, my wife Sandy used to cut the liverwurst up and put it in the freezer. And we had Grover doing everything. You know, a dog would do anything for liverwurst. Okay?
Like people will do anything for a like or a love or a comment or a share.
Right.
It's almost ridiculous.
So you went to the nightlife world and you get this young girl that's looking for all this attention, put her behind the bar. So how does that work? How does that look when you come out with your beautiful girlfriend, who's now your wife, and you're at the bar, and look, you're a man, and that girl's dressed like we're at such and such place, and is stealing your eyes off of your soon-to-be wife. You can't tell me that your girlfriend's going to sit there and go, hey.
I'm cool with this.
You follow me?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't come out with you to be upstaged.
Right.
You know, like no one thinks about this. And I've consulted people, June. I've had people that wanted to do sports bar business, that thought they were in the nightclub business. Oh, we have bottle girls walking around with sparklers and all of that science. Guys that are going out to watch football, okay, are beer. But in a social media world, if you and I, and let's say Jerry and Victor Sawicki, right? When I commented
These
on
are all
the
of my
pictures.
good friends. These are all of my good friends, guys.
All right, so and all you guys have kids now, and I'm telling you, I really, really go nuts when I see all these guys with kids now, because I am a little bit older than you guys. Right? So, so let's just sit there and go, okay, listen, June, this Sunday we're going to go to such and such spot. You, me, Jerry, and Vic, and we're going to watch the Giants get the shit beat out of them. And my wife, who's on social media, and your wife, and Jerry's wife, and Vic's wife are seeing this place, and all of a sudden they're seeing pictures of this place with these girls walking around, half naked, with sparklers. You mean to tell me they're not going to sit there and say, hey, June, are you going there to watch the Giants get their ass kicked? Or are you going there to look at some tail?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, and I had people saying to me, I don't understand, Huge. I don't understand why I'm not doing business. I'm like, look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
Look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're doing, you know, you're a cookie cutter. You know, you're just doing what and you want to know something? That's what makes everything so vanilla.
Right. So on YouTube right now, there seems to be this like framework that these influencers are doing with all of their videos. So if you watch one YouTube video from an influencer, you'll see them all, right? In this video, guys, you're going to get 3 steps on how to do this. And then you get this intro, right? And then, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave comments. Don't forget to do this. Now you're 3 minutes into the video, and you had to say all of that before you actually even get to the value that you think you're delivering, right?
Right.
I don't do that on my YouTube channel. I don't do that on my content. I go right into it. Like, and people are like, oh, you know, you got to dangle the carrot a little bit. You got to make sure that you get subscribers and you have to build up your audience. I'm like, those are all vanity metrics. I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day where I don't get a lot of engagement on social media. Like a lot of my influencer buddies do. But I got to tell you, I still have a great business. I still have a great family. I still have great friends. I still have people that believe in me and trust in me and hire me for premium pricing to do what I do best for them. So do I really need 100,000 followers? Do I really need 500,000 views on a video?
You know what, June? It comes down to, again, the social dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are we fooling here?
Right. Ourselves.
Exactly. Look, I'm going to give you an example. Going back to the category of nightlife. Okay. When you came to Rise or Soundgarden or Chicago or the Temptations, all those years, going back from 1982 right up to the end, if I had a show on stage, you knew that that show was going to come on no later than 1 o'clock or 10 minutes after 1. I did have some instances where there were some car problems or someone got lost or there was a problem. I had a couple incidents.
Sure.
And it might have been 1:30 and 1:45. I featured entertainment as an accessory to the night. I also treated it as the reset button. Because when people started coming out, the crowd started filling in 11 o'clock, 11:15, 11:30, 12 o'clock, things are booming. All right. Whoever's up in the booth spinning is kicking it in, hopefully programming the right music and getting everybody in. All right. And here comes the show. The show, I would have the biggest talent. I'm going to give you an example like Deborah Cox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I debuted her like I did many. And she was a legitimate superstar. I mean, she recorded with Whitney. She recorded with Elton John. She had, I brought her in when she only had like 1 or 2 hits. Keep one thing in mind. She's an R&B singer. Her R&B songs were turned into dance records, and
Right.
they were played in the club and stuff. And after a couple of years, and I would bring her back, she would have like 6, 7 hits. And I'd be like, okay, look, I only want you to do 4 songs. Now, because she was dear to me and she was friends with me, she loved Sandy. Me and Sandy used to go see her off Broadway and stuff. My wife adored her, and she adored Sandy. So did Amber and a bunch of artists that Sandy would like. Deborah would say to me, Eugene, I feel like I'm gypping you. Why do you only want, I have so many songs. I'm like, listen, don't take this wrong, please. All right. You are a legitimate superstar. All right. But I can't go longer than 30 minutes on that stage because people lose interest. It's very, very hard to hold everyone when you're standing and you just got done where 50% of the room was just dancing, going nuts, fist pumping and stuff. Who's talking to a girl? Which girl's talking to a guy? Who's buying people drinks? Who just ordered another bottle or whatever the hell's going on in the room? Okay. I treated a show as a reset switch. And whoever was spinning for me at the time, whether it was Kirk Lopez, Tony Gia, a classic night with Denny Chetos, Anthony D, no matter, Jeff Capel, or anyone that was in my camp that was spinning, okay? It was like they knew that as soon as that show was over, that record that they come out with, the next 2 songs will determine if 75% of that people in that room are going to be there till 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why am I telling you this? Again, most other places, not all, but most, they would sit there and the show is coming on soon. They would have some freaking screaming MC going, hey, everybody, welcome to whatever. And coming up, TKA or Amber or Ultra Nate or whoever. Coming up soon. Before you know it, by design, the show doesn't come on until 2:15, 2:20 in the morning, sometimes 2:30 in the morning, because they think they're smart and they're holding the crowd. Why would you do that? That is so amateur and so wrong, because, what about people that got to go home? All right. It's like, I did this as part of you want your steak? Okay, here it is.
That's my attitude. Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and go, well, you got to do this first and you got to do that first. And you got to do, no, here it is. This is the schedule. This is the menu. This is when it comes out. It's my job as a businessman to get you so excited that I'm going to change your late night plan and have you have more fun. But instead of that, I'm aggravating the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Because now you're waiting. Like, when's the show going to come on?
Yeah. There's so many good lessons learned here. This story that you're telling, right? You could use this in so many different facets of your business, right?
Oh, no,
where it doesn't work, especially brand culture, especially company culture, especially, how you market yourself, right? Sometimes you think you're doing a good thing and you're actually doing a disservice. Yeah, you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Who are you fooling?
Yeah.
Who are you fooling? Honest to God.
The market is way too wise.
Yeah. And you want to know something? They always were.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know something? At the end of the day, that's the difference between lasting long and being one and done.
Yeah.
It's like you're not fooling anybody with what you're serving. You're not fooling anybody, by not being able to answer the phone and tell people what your cover charge is. I mean, come on. You got places that have these guys that are online all day long telling you how many tables they have booked and how many tables they have left.
Yeah, scarcity, all scarcity.
All right. All it is hyperbole. All right. Designed to mind F you.
Yeah.
And to get you riled up.
Yeah.
And meantime, I would look at these people who are on their phones 24/7, referring to themselves as marketers. All right. Where in my network, I had people saying, hey, what's the cover charge? Oh, it's $15. Or what's the cover charge? I got a freestyle night with Lizette Melendez, Karina, and Cynthia. What's the cover charge? $30. Okay.
It's funny you say that, because there's so many people that don't put pricing on their website, or you have to fish to find what it is that you're looking for.
Again, you want to know why? It's done by design, because I call it the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. An insecurity of some sort.
And how do you do that? How do you not answer? And they don't. They'll just delete it from the question.
Yeah. Well, you know what's happening now, Huge? People are going and finding it elsewhere. Yeah. Because there's too many options.
100%. It's like, even now, and I feel horrible right now for what's going on with COVID. Lately with some of the restaurants, they've been getting their ass handed to them, and rightfully so. But a lot of them are trying to make up for bad time by bumping the prices up.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I understand the supply chain has issues, and the prices of everything have gone up and stuff like that. But you want to know something? Everyone's got to be really careful, because pre-COVID, post-COVID, it's all about retention. It's all about your price point, and nobody wants to be taken advantage of to anyone's expense.
Right. I think that is the biggest takeaway that I want people to get out of this conversation is you mentioned reset button, right? You mentioned retention.
Yeah.
You mentioned having team members cut from the same cloth you are cut from. These are all huge, huge, valuable pieces of information. You can't just hire somebody because they're the next flyest thing or the next, right? Or you can't just hire somebody to, with short-term thinking. You know, when I'm hiring somebody, I'm like, I don't want to hire for this position ever again.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money to hire and fire.
Yeah.
Right? Like I look at it that way. And the time it takes to onboard a new, person, I'm going to give a huge shout out to one of my buddies, Mike Dillard. He interviewed the former CEO of Chipotle, and he gave some great insights. This guy, Monty Moran, his name is, on how he built Chipotle to 36 billion. So I want to give Mike Dillard a big shout out. He's got a podcast too called the Mike Dillard podcast. Go listen to that episode. It's an hour long, but it had me from beginning to end. And it was amazing what this guy was saying. And a lot of it is very aligned with what you said today. And man, it's just amazing to get this wisdom and get a conversation with you going again after quite some time of being away from each other and just catching up and listening to you and how you've evolved and how you're continuing to grow. You're just going to open up another chapter, because you're so talented. Nobody has the marketing mind you have, in my opinion. So before we got to start wrapping up, I can hear the natives are getting restless over here in the other room. so I got to get rocking. Little guy's got school tomorrow, but I want to send people that listen to me and are listening and watching this over your way, because I know you can help them tremendously with their marketing, with their messaging, with their, with all that wisdom you have. Where can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'll have to post. That's another thing. I don't have a website. I do have a.
You got an email?
Of course, I have an email.
So give me an email.
I have a bio page,
okay.
And it's. Let me look it up. I don't know it off my. Well, of course, my email is eugene@tgmmedia.com. I don't use my personal page to do any of my marketing. And you know what? I guess I'm wrong for not having that, but let me look at this. So I'm having a problem with my one computer right now, June. So I'm actually kind of embarrassed that I don't have this.
It's okay.
But,
well, they got your email, and that's direct access to you, and you're pretty responsive. Yeah. So you're super responsive, I should say. So
yeah.
No.
It's I mean, just a quick email to eugene@tgmmedia.com. And, I'll send you my bio, and I can show you, a lot of stuff that I'm doing now is all the audio video composition stuff.
Yeah.
In the digital market. And one thing that me and you've talked about when we jump on a call once in a while, because I know you're a busy guy, what seems to be penetrating right now are audio video compositions. And what's happened is a lot of people need to differentiate a static flyer versus something that's moving.
Mm-hmm.
I have shown people analytics of just a regular posting and doing a boost within the Facebook, Instagram platform, and maybe getting a 6% at the most, 7% engagement. Now, of course, the terminology on an audio video composition is called a through play.
Right.
A through play, as you know, is an engagement, but it's saying that if you ran a 30 or a 60, and if you have a compelling message and great content, a through play is a result of somebody watching the whole commercial. I just think it's important that every bit of marketing that you put out there in the digital world has a narrative, because you need to tell your story, and you need to have an audio, and you need to have a voice, just like on radio. You know, for radio to penetrate, listen, radio, 10% of radio is buying the schedule. 90% is the creative.
Right.
You could buy as many spots as you want. If there's no creative narrative behind it, it's the same thing in the digital platforms. You know, there's a lot of people that are sitting there and like, okay, I'm just going to put this video up, and like I think I showed you today with the social light, you know, and me stepping outside the box, and because of nightlife being ruptured right now, you know, I don't care what you're selling. All right. If you don't have a narrative, and if you don't have a voice, whether it be a male voice, someone that's big and, you know, or a female voice or whatever, if you don't have a narrative or content backing it up, all right, you're wasting your time.
I'm so happy you said that. Because people need to start waking up.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there's only so much, you know, everything's so fast. You know, you're on your phone, you're going through the thing, you know, it's like you need to grab people. You know, look, it's theater of the mind. All right, on radio, it's theater of the eyes when it comes to digital.
That's right.
But it's theater of the eyes and the mind, and it's, you know, no matter what the message, there has to be a message.
Yeah.
And if you don't put that message out, and you just put some flat, and again, of course, everyone's going to use a picture of a girl, all right, and, you know, what's your story? You know, what are you trying to get across? And you know, listen, I listen to your stuff all the time, and you know, you've been stressing this for how long?
I know.
I mean, you have evolved. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how glued I am to your stuff. It's like, I'm like, it's great because I feel like I'm sitting talking to you in the office, coming to get a check, you know. But you know, you have just like gone into you're in an orbit that I'm like, holy shit, look at June here. He's killing it. You know?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And I mean, and you know something, June, you know, what you deliver out there to various different businesses is so compelling. It's so informative. It's just, you know, but it's no different. You know, I'm on the same page with you. And like I said, I mean, people today, whether you have a restaurant, whether you have a medical facility, I don't care what you're marketing. You know, there are a lot of people that are boo-boo to radio now. Now, in the New York radio market, which is market one, like, you know, a safe bet, because of what's going on in this political conundrum that we are experiencing, you know, your best choice is to buy 1010 Wins or 77 ABC, because these are the stations that are captivating people, and it's really, really strong. And, you know, and maybe for the older audience, there's other radio stations that are still good for that niche older audience. But the digital platform is so strong, but yet it could be so weak because people are taking the shortcut.
Yeah, and it's crowded. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, is it crowded?
Right? It's crowded. So you're gonna watch. We got to wrap up, but you got to watch. I'm gonna leave you guys with this. Watch what happens to ad spots on Hulu, Netflix. You watch. Netflix is going. You're gonna be getting commercials on Netflix real soon. You watch, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Amazon Prime.
It's just like Facebook, June. We've talked about this,
Mhm.
you know. And if you watch The Social Dilemma, all that did was bring about, like, you and I could have did that documentary.
They did a nice job with it, but
they did a great. I mean, I just find it really like crazy how all of these brainiacs from Silicon Valley became whistleblowers,
right?
But you know, like when you see what's going on, like when I told people that Facebook was competing with Google, it felt like I was blowing a dog whistle, and they were looking at me like this.
Well, it's the truth.
You know, and you want to know something? They run ads. They have 3 active sites running in case one goes down. People are spending millions and millions of dollars running ads.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, where you and I come into this picture, are you running the right ads? Are you, if you're going to spend $100,000 and cheap out because you're going to just put a static, something that's standing still,
yeah,
it ain't working.
Yeah, no.
Again, I go back to the radio thing.
Yeah, video.
You could spend $100,000 on a radio over a 4-week campaign. Mm-hmm. If your creative is not tight,
you're done.
Go to Atlantic City.
It's just, you're wasting money. Or go out in your backyard and just burn money on the back.
Take the money, throw it in the fireplace, or go to AC and put it on red.
That's right.
And you'll probably lose.
It's true. No, it's true.
Yeah, it's
Eugene, man, it was such a pleasure to reconnect with you again and spend some time with you. We're gonna make this more of a routine. You don't live too far from me now, so we gotta get together more and share. You got to share more stories with me. I learned stuff on this episode that I never heard. And how long have I known you? 18 years. I learned something new today. So I just want to say thanks again, not only for coming on the show and spending time with us tonight, but for being there for me when I needed someone like you the most in my life. I couldn't go to my dad. I couldn't go to my uncle. I couldn't go to my wife. And, you were such a breath of fresh air walking into that office, and, the insights and the wisdom you gave me, I can't wait to pass on to my son. So I just want to say thank you for that. And that will always be in my heart and in my life, forever. So I just want to say
I'm trying to keep my eyes from filling up with water right now. June, you were a champion a long time ago, buddy.
I didn't see it. And
it's like I told you before with a voiceover. Sometimes I hear myself and I'm like, I'll have people go, holy shit, that sounds great. You really connect. It's hard sometimes. It's almost like that little piece of lint on the top of your nose that you can't see. But that's the beauty, And you want to know something? Look at what you're doing. You are creating. You are taking your clients, and you're bringing the best out in them. You're basically doing the same thing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
and you do it pretty goddamn well too. That's for sure.
Well, thank you. Eugene, stick around. We're going to wrap up, but stick around. I just want to say goodnight to you. So there you have it, guys. Another episode in the books. This one is probably going to go down as one of my all-time favorites and greats. This one was a long one, guys, but there were so many, and we jumped around, and we're going to cut this down and make this into multiple videos because and episodes, because there's so much we talked about. But I hope you got some wisdom out of today's conversation with Eugene, and I hope you go out and apply some of the stuff that he was saying, because it's so valuable to anybody that owns a business today. And so anyway, guys, have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next one real soon. Take care.